I keep telling you guys that it's always going to be that time when we get ready. And once again, it's about that time. We're about to get real. But today, my guest, if I tell you that she can do so many things, and when I tell it to you, you're going to look back and be like, when did she ever sleep? She's the co-host on Hallmarkies podcast, has her own blog on Rachel Reviews and podcast Rachel Reviews on iTunes. And not only that, guys, she's a darn good swimmer. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Rachel Wagner, a.k.a. Rotten Tomatoes' own critic, Rachel Reviews.
Yay! I don't know if I'm worthy of that introduction, but I'll take it. I'll take it. Thank you.
No problem. I always do my best to give my guests the respect they deserve for all the hard work they've done in their careers.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a great, crazy year. I became Rotten Tomatoes certified in January and just felt like I've been on a crazy roller coaster ever since.
And that says so much, because there's so many critics, young journalists who are coming up in the game, and that's a big stepping stone for them. That's something they always strive for, and you achieved that in this year alone.
Yeah. I feel kind of, I don't know, I feel maybe a little bit awkward about it because I didn't even apply. They came to me, and I had written for rotoscopers.com. I'm still writing for them for over 4 years. I've been writing for rotoscopers.com, which is an animation website. And I've been able to interview, directors. I interviewed Tara Strong, which was really cool. Other voice actresses and different things like that. Plus done a lot of reviews, particularly for independent animation and anime. And they found my reviews and they liked my reviews. And then I think that led them to my other content, my website, my podcast, and they, I guess, liked what they saw, and they invited me. And I know so many other YouTubers that are so qualified, just like I was, and they got refused. And I feel kind of bad because I didn't even apply. And I think they were looking for more female voices, and so in that sense I think I got a little lucky, but I definitely put in the work. So it was really exciting when they sent the email. They had to email me twice because I guess the first one I either didn't notice or thought was spam or went to spam or something.
That happens.
And yeah, and they sent me another email, and I didn't believe it at first. I thought it was a joke because I didn't apply.
I mean, of course, right?
Yeah. And so, but then I did some research and I'm like, oh, there is somebody named, I think it was Jenny. There's somebody named Jenny who works for Rotten Tomatoes who, was like, oh, this is real. Oh my gosh. And I was so excited. And it's been the most part of it that made me excited was because I knew that with Rotten Tomatoes, I could get on the big press list that's really hard to get on here in Utah. It's with the Allied group, and I knew that I could apply and that I would actually get in, and I was able to get on the Disney list as well, which was a big dream of mine. And
nice.
And so that has been a huge blessing to be able to see so many of these films in advance, and I think it's made me a better critic because it's been a completely non-biased as much as you can be as a human review, because I'm not influenced by other reviews. I'm not influenced by, it's just I've seen it early, so I don't know what my friends think. I don't know what anybody thinks. And I mean, I always tried to be pretty objective, but it just helps even more so to be able to go to the early screenings and just have a very fresh type of response.
This journey for you has actually started way back in the day.
Yeah.
And let's go to that. Let's go to where it all began for you.
Yeah.
You know, because I've seen that when you were young, you were always kind of into this. You know,
yeah.
With you and your sister being in the newspaper, while your parents weren't fully into this, you know, but this was inside of you.
Yeah. So my family, my parents are not into movies at all, but my mom always kind of had a philosophy of do not mindlessly consume entertainment. Like get something out of it. Notice the details. And she'd want us to say why we liked something, you know, and then we talk about it. And I remember just sitting around in the kitchen just talking about a book I liked and why did I like it, and or music or whatever it might be. And that kind of attitude. And my brother and I are very, very different. And so most of the time, if he liked something, I usually ended up not liking it, and back and forth. And we'd have these pretty spirited conversations. And I just got used to that kind of environment. And I was very a huge fan from an early age of Siskel and Ebert on TV, and making sure every week I watched their shows and heard their opinions about things. And most of the time, I would say about 90% of the time, I probably was never going to see most of the movies they were talking about, because I was from a pretty conservative, pretty strict family as far as that kind of thing. And I certainly wouldn't have been allowed to see anything that was R-rated or, you know, anything like that. But it didn't really matter if I had seen it or not, because I just enjoyed hearing them talk about it. And then I did some writing for my school paper, and then I kind of let it go to the side for quite a while. But I would still talk with my friends. In fact, I got to the point in college where I kind of stopped talking about movies, because I noticed that it really kind of irritated a lot of my friends who just wanted to go and kind of mindlessly consume entertainment.
And like a lot of my friends as well. Exactly.
Yeah. And I remember in particular, we went to see the movie Chocolat, and I haven't seen it since then, but at the time I hated it. I thought it was terrible. And it really made me mad the way that they kind of portrayed all the religious characters in the movie as being these just horrible people who were judgmental, and that once people became like, you even have at one point the reverend is or the priest or whatever is scarfing down chocolates because he's been so limited and whatever. And I didn't like it, and I wanted to talk to my friends about it. And I remember one of them just kind of groaning a little bit and being like, Rachel, we just wanted to watch the movie for Johnny Depp and, you know, swoon or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I kind of kept a lot of my opinions to myself for a while. And then when I came back from a mission for my church, you can't, when you're on your mission, you can't go to any movies or anything like that. And so I kind of started to dive back into that after 2 years of being gone. And so every once in a while I would post a review on my blog that I was doing, just a personal blog that I still have. And every once a month or every so often I'll update my personal blog. But I used to do it all the time. And then I would do sometimes movie reviews, and I always just really enjoyed it. Well, in 2000.
If I can stop you for one moment.
Yeah, please.
If we can just go back to college, because so far I'm seeing two things that are really, really coming together with it, especially for your college and your faith. Now, you're saying that, you know, your faith, you come from a very strict background, and they frown upon on this kind of like entertainment stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're told to seek after all things that are good or of good report or praiseworthy, but definitely it's frowned upon to watch what would be traditionally thought of as sort of R-rated content.
Right.
So.
But so then right there with that, and then when you got up to college, because you were inspired, from these other critics before.
Yeah.
You always had that inside of you. But then as time rolled on, college, it felt like the people around you were like just demeaning you, or just saying like, look, stop doing that. All right,
Yeah.
we're just trying to enjoy our entertainment without you bickering and nitpicking everything. So
Right.
how are you able to with your friends, them not encouraging you, but also too your faith kind of like that little reminder in your ear, like, it's not a good idea for you to like this.
Yeah.
You do this.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things. So at least I always had my family that I could talk with and hash it out. And that's one thing that's in a way kind of nice about the fact that my mom doesn't watch very many movies, because she doesn't care if I spoil it or if I, whatever.
Mom.
And so I could just call and be like, this part drove me crazy. And she'd be like, okay, whatever,
That's a good mom. Yes.
Yeah. And, but my siblings are all quite into movies, so I could always talk kind of with any of them. And so there was usually somebody, even if my friends weren't that into it. But yeah, I mean, and I probably was somewhat insufferable. I'm sure that's not too hard to believe.
I bet that's you and every other critic. I can guarantee you.
I think you have to find that balance of sort of respecting other people's opinions, and it's I don't know how good any person when they're in their early 20s is all that great at that.
No, we're still learning about life. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and as far as the content thing, what the big turning point for me was, I somehow was convinced or whatever to see Slumdog Millionaire by a friend, or I can't remember who, but I went and saw it even though it was R-rated, and I absolutely loved that movie. It's still one of my all-time favorites. It really spoke to me. I thought it was such a beautiful love story and such a hopeful movie. And it just kind of hit me that the things in this movie were mature, but they weren't necessarily offensive. And so I kind of changed my philosophy, because I realized that I just needed to do my homework and find out what the content was and what was going on. And then that really opened the doors, because sometimes I at that time I wouldn't see PG-13s that if I looked at the content and it didn't look like something that would be uplifting or something that I would enjoy, then I wouldn't see it, even though, and then maybe I would see an R that had some of that mature content but wasn't offensive, and so that was a real turning point for me. Yeah, and now as a somebody who's actually trying to make this into a career as a critic, I definitely have to be even more kind of accepting. But no, even critics, nobody can see everything. Nobody can.
That's the truth, right?
Watch every movie, and so every critic makes choices. And so where I may see a faith-based film that another critic doesn't see, and they may see a slasher movie that I don't see. And so hopefully, but I am trying to sort of expand my my palette
surroundings, yes,
least, so that I mean, but there are still, I didn't see any of the It movies. I didn't see Joker. If it gets nominated for Best Picture, I will watch it. But yeah, because that I always try to, you kind of need to, as a semi pundit, you need to see all the Best Picture nominees, and because there's just a lot of pieces and a lot of talk about it. But I won't see anything, but I am trying to expand that a little bit, since I want this to hopefully become a career for me, and at least part-time sustaining kind of career. And so I don't know, I just think it's important to there's so many resources that we have now that you, as somebody of faith who's concerned about content, that you can turn to, and you can find out, like, you can actually do your homework instead of relying on the MPAA to do your homework for you, which is very unreliable.
Mhm.
And so go to screenit.com or go to the parental guidance in IMDb and really find out, is it just rated R for swearing, which to me, not that big a deal. That's just for me. Or
Say
is
a
it
lot of people.
is it violence? Is it, sensuality? Like, find out, do your homework and make an informed choice instead of just being like, oh, it's rated R. It's terrible. I can't see it.
You're asking people to do way too much, Rachel. I'm sorry. Come on now. I'm Ronald E. Smith. I'm talking with Rachel Reviews. And your journey through all this, I mean, look, I'm seeing why you wanted to be a critic so much, why this means so much to you. But at one point in your life, you had to take a leap of faith, to get this ball rolling. Because like two things kind of forced you to get this fully going, right? At 2007, you said you had to quit your job.
Yes. So in 2007, I had been working at a job for a part of our family company, but pretty tangentially so. It wasn't anybody in my actual family, but just part of this office. And I had this manager who just treated me with complete disdain. Ugh. She just didn't like me, and she made my life pretty miserable. And I put up with it for 3 years because I was going to grad school, and I just became increasingly more and more depressed. And I remember my mom asked me, she asked me, why is this, you've been through so many hard things, why is this the thing that's getting to you so much? And I just said, I felt like I had a black cloud over my life, and it wouldn't go away, and I couldn't make it right. And that's how I felt. And it was a very tough time for me. And I don't think anybody really realized, maybe except for God, realized how low I was really feeling. And I just finally reached through several experiences, but one of the experiences that was kind of my breaking point was I actually went on vacation to Hawaii, and I was about to leave, and I had such an amazing experience. It was so wonderful. And I was leaving, and I called my dad, and I was just bawling. And he was like, "What's wrong? Like, why are you crying?" And I just said that I felt like I had forgotten how to feel joy until that trip. And I was just like, I need to feel joy in my life. And it just made me realize, okay, I need to make a change. And so I quit the job, and it was one of the best moments of my whole life when I was walking out of that job. And a lot of people would have said I was crazy because I didn't have anything to fall back on, and I was still going to school, still going to grad school. So it was crazy, but I just knew that it was gonna be bad. I needed to make a change, or it was bad. It was really bad. And
you said you trusted your inner voice. You said that when you did that, you said it was scary. It was one of the greatest choices you made. I don't want to bring this up because I know probably it's not a fun memory for you to bring this up to you, but another big part of your journey, if we fast forward to 2007, it looks too of your torn MCL.
Yes. So this was in 2014. So I had been doing the personal blog, and I had been working I'd started swimming these open water swim races in 2011, and I just became kind of addicted to it. And I was just really loving that. And then through a stupid slip that I made on this, I was in a hotel room, and I slipped on this tile, and I tore my MCL, and it wasn't bad enough that I needed surgery, but it was enough that it was going to debilitate me for several months.
That's nuts. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it was really frustrating and very painful. And
I can imagine. Come on now.
And so I was trying to think, what could I do to make this livable? Luckily, I work from home, and so I was able. It wasn't that prohibitive that way. It didn't have a job or something that I had to go to every day. I was trying to think of something that I could do, and I decided I've always been a big Disney fan, always been a big animation fan. I've always wanted to review the Disney canon, which is the official canon film. So not like not like your early your 90s sequels or the Goofy
Okay,
movie, or
right.
those aren't canon films. And at the time this was leading up to Big Hero 6, and that was going to
Okay,
be
okay.
and so I wanted to watch all 54 canon films. And so originally I started my webpage, as 54 Disney reviews, because that's all I was planning on doing. And I really enjoyed it. I loved it. And I found that I was actually a pretty good writer, I think, about film and my opinion. And so I was really enjoying it. And once I healed and once I finished the project, I was having so much fun that I was like, well, maybe I'll keep doing this. Why not? And so I did. And then I trying to increase my skill set, because in 2013, I had gotten actually a job in marketing. I'd moved over from doing accounting to doing marketing, and I was trying to have more skills. So I decided to start doing YouTubing. And originally it was just me in front of the webcam, doing a subscription unboxings. Very low tech.
You gotta start somewhere.
Yeah. And then I started really trying to make them better. I got a microphone. I mean, just all the separate camera, all that stuff. And then I started doing movie reviews on YouTube just for fun,
Of course.
along with the unboxings. And then when Force Awakens was coming out, I decided with two of my friends to do more a podcast on all the Star Wars movies. And that was so much fun, and I really enjoyed it. And YouTube became like perpetually more restrictive as far as copyright. And so it became more irritating. And so I was just enjoying doing the podcast so much more. And so I still have as far as Rachel's reviews, I still have Talking Disney that I do every month with my friend Stanford, where we review the Disney canon. I've also reviewed the Disney canon on my channel. So I've reviewed it technically twice in completion on my blog and then again on my channel, but we're doing it as well, me and Stanford. And then also Obscure Animation that we do every month, where we talk about a underappreciated, underrated, usually small animated film. And then I also do the Criterion Project once a month with my friend Conrado, and that's been really fun, where we talk about a film on the Criterion channel. So and most of those are pretty easy because it's just once a month. And then my friend Amber and I started this Hallmarkies podcast, and it just kind of on a lark. And it's really kind of become sort of taken over my life. But I really am glad it has. It's been really great, where we every week we review whatever Hallmark movies have been that weekend. And then we have some bonuses. During the holidays, we review every Christmas movie. So I've seen already over 100 Christmas movies, new 2019, and
See, I thought I was being crazy trying to watch the new Netflix Christmas movies, but come on, are you kidding me?
No, it's true story. Almost done this weekend. It'll be almost done. Yeah, I do weekly interviews for the Hallmarkies podcast, and that's been really wonderful. I also, on Rachel's reviews, every week I have family movie night that I do. I've done over 200 picks for family movie night every Monday. And so, yeah, it all just kind of has exploded. And I'm really grateful because I'm able to, through all these different things, kind of make it all work. I have a part-time job where I work doing marketing, social media marketing. And right now I've basically become a kind of a full-time blogger, part-time blogger for the company that I've worked for a long time. And so that's been great. And so through all of that, through everybody's support, and I'm now at this really wonderful part. And I think about back in 2007 when I had that black cloud over my life, and I could see it now. Rotten Tomatoes critic. I have these great podcasts, and we'll talk to all these wonderful people. I just feel, I just think how amazed I would be back in 2007. It's really amazing how you take that leap and where it takes you.
And see, right there, that first step is always the hardest, as anyone would tell you, you know, because in the end, you have no idea what the future holds to you, you know? Yeah. But you look for, like you said, you just look to yourself and you look through the road you went on to obtain what you've gotten through 07 to 2013, to 14, to 15, to 16, and onward and onward. And the goals that you have made, of course, there have been setbacks. Of course, there have been bumps in the road. But look at where you have obtained now. All the work you've been doing, all the good stuff that's been flying into your life, all because what? You took the first step. And nobody can say nothing towards you. All they can look at you and say, Rachel, dang, I wish I did what you did. Because it's scary. It's a scary feeling. So, but through that, from 07 to now, was there any point during that whole time you wanted to quit?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was never any time when how should I say this? That I always knew that I was on the right path, and that because I was always looking to make sure I never felt like I felt in 07. And I promised myself I would never let that happen again. And I definitely had a couple rough spots with some family struggles and some anxiety and things like that I dealt with, but I never felt that hopeless as I felt in 07, and I will never allow that to happen again. And I really worked hard on learning about some tools that would really help me with making sure that never happened. And I took a really careful and mindful approach to my own mental health. And it's something that I take very seriously. And I love a book called Feeling Good by David Burns. I highly recommend it to anybody. It's such a great resource. And what it does is it talks about how you will tell yourself these you basically lie to yourself about your own value. And so you'll say things like, you'll say all these distorted thoughts to yourself, and that causes anxiety and causes all these problems. And like, for instance, say, if just as an example, if I burn a meal, my distorted thought is, well, I'm a terrible cook. I can't ever cook anything. I'm the worst. Right. That's obviously a distortion, because you can cook something. Nobody is bad at everything. So if you can be really cognizant of those things and how you are talking to yourself, it can help so much. And I've really, I think, become actually pretty good at taking those experiences very seriously and really having a plan of what I'm going to do when I feel like something like that's coming on. And that's something I definitely recommend to anybody. I'm super busy as a person, but I feel so blessed because I love almost everything that I'm doing. Sometimes the editing is a little, but other than that,
you're preaching to the choir. Yes.
I feel very blessed. And so I've had, my ups and downs and different things, but I never never felt like I felt during those 3 years that I was struggling.
This is Ronald E. Smith. I'm talking with Rachel Reviews. If you're enjoying all this and you enjoy what she's saying, go follow her on YouTube at Rachel Reviews. Go to her blog at rachelreviews.net. And if you just want to keep being closer to her and check her on her daily life, check her on Twitter and Instagram, and follow her Twitter at Rachel_Reviews and Instagram Rachel_Reviews.
Thank you. Yeah, especially Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter. Probably too much.
Y'all should see her on Twitter. She is a blast. And see, speaking of Twitter, this is where I'm moving the segment next for you, Rachel. Is because this is where I actually got to notice you, and really follow you from Twitter to your YouTube channel, because that's when like I followed a lot more and seeing more YouTubers, especially movie critic YouTubers. You know, I've always was a fan of the Jeremy Johns, the Chris Stuckmans, Nostalgia Critics, and my personal favorites, the Double Toasted.
Yeah.
But that's why I started seeing you guys. Like I started seeing, you, Sean Chandler, Pay to Wait. And then I saw you. What really caught me was your review on Shazam.
Yeah.
And I think you know where I'm going to go with this. Because this is one of the few things I really want you to talk about with me.
Yeah, please.
So let's just go ahead. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. Yes. Now, everyone remembers Shazam, that fun movie. It was fun for some people.
Right.
For others, it wasn't their cup of tea.
Right.
Rachel had that mind of it just wasn't for her. But like anything else, we all know that the internet, if you don't agree with them, they're going to make your life hard. So let's just go right there with you, Rachel. Let's put that right there. You put it out there that Shazam wasn't for you, and then you got hit with the backlash.
Big time. So, yeah, basically, I went and saw Shazam. I was actually really looking forward to it because I love Zachary Levi, and he'll always be Flynn Rider to me.
Yes.
But I love him. He's wonderful, and he's even done a Hallmark movie. And so I was excited for it. It looked really cute, and from my perspective, I just thought it was very tonally dissonant. It didn't do a good job of it's not that a movie has to have the same tone throughout, but I think you need to manage your tone carefully. And you can't all of a sudden have like a horror scene next to a really comedic light scene, and then another sort of horror dark scene. And that's kind of what I felt like the movie did. And particularly the spoilers if you haven't seen Shazam, but particularly the scene in the boardroom where all of these innocent people that are just there for this meeting, they didn't do anything, whatever, and they just get eaten alive. And I just thought that and you see them, up against the glass pleading for mercy, and I just thought that scene was very violent, and people literally just being thrown out of window for a movie that like 5 seconds later is goofing around at school. And I didn't feel like they did a good job of showing any kind of commonality between Shazam and Billy. And I didn't feel like Shazam as a character was childlike enough, or that Billy, I just felt like they were completely different characters. And then you have thrown in, as far as tonally, you have Billy meeting his mother, and that like felt really out of place to me. And so anyway, I said this, or I tried to say it on my channel, on my review, and what part of the problem is that I was one of, like, at the time, probably only 5 to 10 negative reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, and I was the only female Rotten review. And so female critics, if you look, especially with comic book movies, get particularly targeted. There's another reviewer that was especially targeted for her review of Aquaman. And I know Perry Nemiroff, she often will get targeted. She didn't give a positive review to Aquaman. Different people like that. And so there's the backlash would come from channels and Facebook groups that would do whole posts that would say something like, well, we got to get this girl off of Rotten Tomatoes. She's never going to review a DC movie again. There was something like one of them was F Marvel Tards. They particularly sent their people after me. And just the first time that they did that, they did it several times. The first time they did it, about 10 minutes later, I got my first basic death threat, where people said they were going to come beat the, blah, blah, blah out of me. And
wow.
And
come on now.
and then I actually had to call the FBI because one of their goons he said that he was going to come to my next screening with a semi-automatic weapon and was going to shoot out the screening. So I had to tell the people in the screenings who informed Warner Brothers about it. They knew.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I reported it to Facebook. Was pretty useless because they had sent it on the message system, which I guess is technically not Facebook, which is ridiculous. And they finally like gave him a warning, I guess. I'm like, thanks a lot. And but anyway, I had to I let everybody know. And I have to say, Rotten Tomatoes was so supportive, wonderful. And everybody was. The screening people were the best. They and all my friends, fellow YouTubers were just so supportive and wonderful. And it's interesting because since it came out, I feel like that there have been quite a few people that still like the movie, which is totally fine, but have admitted in their reviews that, yeah, the tone is kind of all over the place in the movie. So I felt a little bit vindicated by that. And so I realized also, as far as my own skills as an orator, I think I'm better at this more sort of longer format of a podcast, or where I'm kind of another person to kind of bounce off of and talk about it. Or I think I'm a better writer. So any review that I feel like, oh, this is going to be controversial, this is going to, I review it on my blog, on my website, as opposed to on the YouTube. And I pretty much now, just on my YouTube channel, I do trailer reactions. I have my podcast posted on there, and I have the family movie night, and an occasional review that I think nobody's going to care about this. But yeah, I finally, that was just an incredibly intense experience. I hardly slept the whole weekend because it was just, I thought I was prepared for anything because I've been, creating content for a decade practically.
Right.
And so it actually kind of threw me that it got under my skin as much as it did, but I stand behind the review. I still think it's true. And it did make me feel a little bit better when famed critic Leonard Maltin basically completely agreed with me in his review. I'm like, okay, woo.
As you said, like, come on, like, you have every right to feel what you feel, and you have every right to put out what you thought about whatever film you saw. And these basement dwellers, all because they don't agree with you, have zero right to come at you and then cross that line of saying that they want to hurt you, which is indescribably stupid.
Yeah.
But see, just like that, because what you went through, I mean, also too, the extra stuff you got piled onto you, I haven't heard a lot of other people deal with that. You brought up how, especially, female YouTubers, I feel that they get hit heavier than guys.
Right.
And what you experience, I see a lot on Twitter, like a lot of female writers or female YouTubers, like they experience this, whatever they go against the grain of what quote unquote real fans agree with.
Right.
They look at them like you have an agenda. Oh, you don't get it. You're a female. Yeah. And I think that's so belittling, but that's that extra pressure. Like, do you feel that you have to be 10 times better just because you're a female?
Yeah, I think there is definitely some of that for sure. I think you get more targeted, and you certainly get more criticized for your appearance than a male person of your same stature. I think a guy YouTuber that's my same weight, the same, whatever, would be kind of just like a teddy bear, kind of a cute, whereas like a woman is much more, criticized for your appearance. And I think that goes true for no matter what your appearance is as a woman, whether you're, people will call you a slut, people will call you if they don't agree with you or whatever they can see to kind of
just bring it down.
Yeah. You look at controversial reviews by male YouTubers, and they rarely bring in their appearance into the thing, which is whatever. But I think that it's a lot of these spaces that are in popular culture are traditionally male spaces, and that's only because women haven't really been allowed to create in those spaces. And so a movie like Captain Marvel comes along, and certain types of people, I'm not even going to call them fans because they're not fans, are threatened by that, are threatened by a different perspective, and they become, the worst of the worst. And I mean, the whole Brie Larson thing, I never really understood. I mean, she was advocating for a diverse representation on her press corps. Why does anybody care about the press corps of an actress? I think that is so bizarre. Following a thing, I mean, I don't know. I just thought it was the weirdest nitpicky kind of a thing, and turning her into some kind of just the worst person in the world. And I'm not saying that movie is perfect or by any means, but it was just such a bizarre phenomenon. And I just think it's because certain people, not the majority, just a very difficult sliver of both fandoms, Marvel and DC in particular, and probably Star Wars too. They just resent these female voices in their male space.
But so then when you see this, and then you get up and coming film writers, film critics, female critics, and they get scared because I've seen some of them say that I've stopped doing this. I'm deleting my Instagram, my Twitter. I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. Or some take like months, a year off because they're like, it was so much. So I guess any way you can, give them the courage to keep going. You know what I mean? Like how?
Well, I mean, I can understand it because most of us are doing this for fun. And when you have you deal with that kind of stuff, that's not fun. Why would you purposely want to put yourself through that if you didn't have some kind of, career goal or different things? I would say that we need your voice, that you are valued. And even if you only get 50 views, some of my videos still have 50 views. Some of my family movie nights, don't do as well as I'd like. But we need, even that's 50 people who were hopefully influenced and maybe watched something they wouldn't have watched or heard an opinion they wouldn't have heard. And so I would say we need your voice. Please find a way that even if it's not a huge presence, you don't have to, even if it's just once a month or once a quarter or whatever, like let us know, let us hear from you. We need your voice, whether it's blogging or on podcasting or whatever is the medium that suits you. And I would also say to people, don't be afraid to kind of let your career sort of ebb and flow and do different things and just kind of go where it's going to take you. And I mean, I never thought that I was going to be a Hallmark podcaster. That just kind of happened. I mean, I was always a fan of Hallmark Christmas movies, but I wasn't a yearly devotee. I was definitely the sort of the more newbie of the two of us when we were starting the podcast, and it just, people liked it. People enjoyed it, and it has been kind of a safe space. I hate that phrase, but it has been kind of a safe space of a place where the fandom is pretty great and pretty supportive and lovely. And so I feel like I can kind of, even during that Shazam week, I had that weekend, I had a Hallmark movie that I watched that weekend, and it was just kind of like, oh.
little zen, like, oh, there you go. Yeah. This is what I need around here.
So like, don't be afraid of trying your own thing, seeing where things take you, and just embracing that, and don't feel like you have to do what everybody else does. Like, if you don't want to review the latest Marvel film, don't review it. Review something else. What's interesting is the weekend that Lion King remake came out, because I review all things Disney. I reviewed the movie, and then I did a trailer reaction to the new Makoto Shinkai film, the anime film, Weathering with You. And I even said it, I think, in the trailer reaction. I said, I don't think anybody's going to watch this because it's a big Lion King weekend. And to my shock, that trailer reaction had like 9K views, which is a lot for me. And the Lion King review was fine, and it did fine. But that was an interesting experience to me. So I think that's one advice I would have is if a thing that everybody else is doing you don't want to do, find something else. Find a little indie, find a whatever. Talk about that.
You won't know until you try it.
Yeah.
And also, too, it's just a little, I always just want to just put this out there for every time when someone says to me when they want to hear a female side of it, of any film, and they say, but there are not a lot of female critics out there. I can't find them. I only see the Perrys from Collider or the Grace Randolphs. Yeah. And I'm like, they're out there. Yeah. You got to do your work and find them. And because they are willing to talk to you.
Yeah. And also there's trans critics. There's all the different groups. You can find a critic that's the best way to use Rotten Tomatoes, actually, as opposed to the percentage scores or the whatever, because, it doesn't matter. Like, I may like a movie that, like, most of the Hallmark movies would have terrible Rotten Tomatoes scores, but I like them. And so it doesn't, it doesn't matter, but it's about finding the critic who you think, this person, I either understand their point of view, or I agree with them quite a bit, or whatever. Like, you may have a lot of movies that you disagree with them on, but you know that, and so you know that, oh, this person that I know didn't like this movie, but I typically like this kind of movie that he or she doesn't like. So you find those people that you connect with and that you enjoy their content, and that can be a good use of Rotten Tomatoes, and a good guide for you. And because you think we do a lot of things in our life that have a relatively small percentage of universal appeal, right? I mean, I think about my religion. It's very small. It's probably, but that doesn't bother me because I get what I need out of it, right? And so nobody would stop going to a restaurant because only 50% of people like it, right? Like you would keep going there because you like it, and you're the person that matters, and you're the one eating it.
I'm staying with it.
Yeah,
come on now.
So that's the way that I kind of tell people is use Rotten Tomatoes as a resource to find critics that you really agree with, and you've got all of their reviews easy to find there. And I think that's a really good way to do it.
I'm speaking with Rachel Reviews, and let me just say, Rachel, all right, like, for your career, the journey has been there for you to the beginning when you quit your job and took the road here, through all the tribulations that come with it, through your reviews, your trailer actions, your blogs, but also you look through the bright side through everything else. And that has not stopped you. You have grown, and you've become what you become now. And the future is looking brighter for you because you know that there are other things you want to do and strive to do. So with that, Rachel, is there anything to look forward to in the new year for 2020 that you're looking to expand yourself in your career?
Well, I am so excited because we have the biggest thing coming up in January. It'll be my 4th year in a row covering the Sundance Film Festival, and I'm going to be my goal is to go to 30 films. It's going to be hard. Last year I did 20, or this year I did 25, and that was really hard. But
it's never easy. These things are expensive.
No, yeah, they're expensive, and it's exhausting, but I'm going to see as many as I can. And that's a great experience covering Sundance Film Festival because I live here in Utah, so it's a little easier for me to cover it than than maybe others.
Flying over.
That's the big thing. And then for Hallmarkies podcast, we're just coming off of this. We're almost done this whole Christmas season, so that's kind of a breath of really fresh air.
Relax.
And but before you know it, we're going to be covering One Calls the Heart starting up again. We have Winterfest that's coming in January, and then. Also, I'm going to keep up with the Talking Disney podcast, my Criterion Project podcast, all those different things. And also, we're going to, me and my friend Jonathan, we are going to cover the new season of Doctor Who. So we really have enjoyed doing that. We've recorded 2 seasons of Doctor Who, and so the new season is starting, and so that will be really fun. I'm looking forward to that. And I'm just going to continue on to post my reviews. Make sure you're following me on the blog because, like I said, any kind of controversial post, I've just had such a better experience writing my content versus YouTubing. The comments are just so much better. Like I didn't really like The Irishman, and so I'm putting out that blog, and actually it ended up being a really gratifying experience because there were a ton of comments like, "You're the only critic that's understood how I reacted because I didn't like it either." And so it's been a way better experience than it would have ever been on YouTube. And so make sure you're following me on the blog, and on the podcast because I think you'll really enjoy it. And we try to make the Hallmarkies podcast fun and entertaining, even if you don't watch the movies. My goal is there's an old show called Car Talk. Yeah, so there was this old show, these 2 brothers talking about fixing cars, and they were so funny. And they actually really got me through some hard times, just making me laugh. And I hate cars. I think cars are such a pain in the neck. And so the fact that I liked this show so much, so much despite it being I'm on cars, like that says something to me. And so that's sort of my goal with Hallmarkies podcast, to make it funny, to make it light. We don't take this too seriously, but we are genuinely fans of these movies as a whole. Obviously, there's some that we don't like. But anyway, we try to make it something that's funny and entertaining, have interesting interviews. Even if you don't like Hallmark movies, you might still actually like the podcast.
Might get something out of it.
Yeah.
And Rachel, because the one thing too, because your future, what you're doing for yourself, and the one thing that I can relate to you through everything that you have said, everything you have brought up, because also I am a child of God. I'm saved, and I've always had to battle myself with the things I watch and the things I review as well. But as watching you inspire me to know that, look, continue following your thing. But that doesn't mean that you have to stop doing a career that you love. There's a balance. And with everything that you are doing, I see nothing but great things for your future.
Well, thank you very much. I try to look at the words of Paul when he said, "We believe all things, we hope all things, we endured many things, and hope to endure all things. If there's anything just worthy, praiseworthy, or of good report, we seek after these things." And I think that's the way I look at it, that I don't care what rating it has. I want to know, is it something that is going to add to my life? Am I going to understand a human better? Am I going to be able to understand a time period of history? Am I going to laugh when I might not have laughed that day? Whatever it might be. And I think that's what I seek after. Anything virtuous, lovely, or of good report or praiseworthy.
I'm talking Rachel reviews. The last thing I have for you, Rachel, and this is what I've done to a lot of my guests on Getting Real with Me. That's what we just did. We got a good time over here. Had a good fun time.
This is great.
And the last thing I want to do, and this is about you right now, for everyone who has been by your side, who's been picking you up when you couldn't walk anymore. Here's the spot right now. I want you to show out and shout out anyone you want to give them their just dues. The floor is yours. Go on ahead.
So many people. I can't even start. But I particularly this year, I'll just say people have really been there for me. I want to thank Sean Chandler, and Jennifer Chandler. His wife have been such good friends to me, such great support. I want to thank Alonzo Giraldi, who has really mentored me as a new critic, and he's been so supportive of Hallmarkies podcast. I'm so grateful for that. I'm really grateful for my movie buddy, Jen, who goes to almost all the screenings with me. My friend Stanford. They're kind of my two best friends in real life, I guess. And they've been so wonderful. I'm so grateful for every co-host of the Hallmarkies podcast. There's 9 of us now in total, and they have just been such amazing supports and lights, and I don't deserve them. And I'm so grateful for every guest that we've had. I'm really grateful for my friend David Healy, who does the wrap-ups and previews with me of the movies. I am grateful for anybody who's come on my podcast, anybody who's watched any of my reviews, anybody who has read my reviews, whether you commented or not. It's meant so much to me. I'm really grateful to my brother who is and was such a support to me, especially during that whole Shazam thing. He actually came over and basically spent the night and just making sure I was okay, and that meant a lot to me. Just so many people. I'm really grateful for both my grandmas who passed away this year and their wonderful love and their influence on my life. And I have so much to be grateful for. I'm so grateful for my faith, for the sacrifice of Jesus Christ and all that he does to build me up, especially in those tough times. There's just so many people that I could talk about.
Amen on that. And as you all know, my name is Ronald E. Smith. This is Rachel Wagner, a.k.a. Rachel Reviews. And y'all, I think we just got real.
Merry Christmas!
And we'll see you later.